right, welcome to another episode of Recliner Wrestling Review. Jared and John here. John, how's it going today, man? How are you?
I'm great. Ready to talk about WrestleMania 11. How about yourself?
I'm pumped and ready for some 90s WWF for sure. This is I gotta admit, this is kind of the start of my weekly addiction for WWF. I was kind of hit and miss on a lot of things before, kind of knew the pulse of things and kept in touch just to know enough. But this is where it was like full-blown addiction. Every time I could get to a TV, I was searching for some kind of WWF created content. So yeah.
93 and 94, I was going hard. This and 95, I'm still familiar with what was going on, but I wasn't as into it. I was still watching all the time.
Which makes more sense because business is down in a big way in 95 for WWF. So it's really funny that during all this, you know, the slump, if you will, I'm getting just totally attached, and it becomes a 20+ year obsession. Where the rest of wrestling fans are like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm going to WCW.
And who was in WCW in 95?
Exactly, brother.
There you go.
So John, have you watched 11 anytime recently, or when's the last time that you remember watching it?
It's been a minute. When I bought that WrestleMania box set years ago with all the DVDs, I got through all of them, and I've stayed up to date since then, obviously. But yeah, 11, it's been a minute since I went back and watched it. We were kind of talking off camera where what happened at 11? It's Lawrence Taylor, it's LT, and it's kind of forgettable. But
it is.
It was Vince.
I'm not a football
fan
though.
Yeah, Vince reaching out to pop culture, to the sports world, to Hollywood heavily, and just trying to get everybody to get attention on the product again.
Yeah.
What are your memories?
My memories are Clickamania. A lot of members of the Click all threaded throughout the show. More on that later on. But the other thing that I remember is, like I said, just, you know, I'm not a big football fan, so I didn't know how big of a get Lawrence Taylor was. But to me, I feel like maybe that there could have been somebody bigger, like an Emmitt Smith or somebody like that kind of comes to mind for 90s football.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm a wrestling guy.
Yeah. LT was just a big dude, and that's, I think, was the appeal there.
That makes sense. Yeah, in the land of giants, yeah, size is going to reign supreme. So
yeah,
makes a lot of sense. Be sure to like this video, share it with your tag team partners, and hit your finisher on that subscribe button, brother. Ooh, yeah, dig it. All right, all things considered, we're ready to roll.
Yeah.
WrestleMania 11 takes place April 2nd of 1995. It has a 2-hour and 25-minute runtime.
And that's network runtime.
That is network runtime. You're correct. There are some differences.
WWE Network.
I know of one difference, and that was a theme song. So if you know of any other differences, be sure to speak up.
Salt and Pepper was totally their performance. That was cut. That was the big one.
Yep, that's the one I knew of.
Yeah.
And I think they played "What a Man," which was might have been. I don't know. They played some song.
I'm gonna go with sure.
Yeah, you know. This is the WrestleMania tradition continues, and we get a WrestleMania 1 through 10 recap package. Notice anything weird about that package, John?
About the video package, I noticed it was mostly based on celebrities, and they were hyping that up pretty heavy on the show. And
not a single wrestling person involved in any of that package. 100% all of the celebrities from past WrestleManias.
Andre was there.
Was he?
Yeah.
In the video package?
He was choking my boy.
Well, had he done Princess Bride at this point? Because if so, then he'll count as a celebrity.
Okay, sure.
Oh man. So we get to after that little replay package, we then go to a preview of what's to come on this WrestleMania. And again, it's very heavy in the celebrity show off, if you will. So yeah, we're going to have Pamela Anderson. We'll have Jonathan Taylor Thomas join us.
Jenny McCarthy.
NYPD Blue.
NYPD Blue, yeah.
Turturro? Nick Turturro, thank you.
Nick
yes.
Turturro.
And then, of course, with Bret Hart, Salt and Pepper. So, good stuff. Good stuff. We start the pay-per-view. Well, before we do, let's get into some statistics here. The attendance was 16,305, which had a buy rate of 340,000 buys. It sold out 10 days in advance, and the gate was estimated to be $750,000 with a gross estimated of $7.4 million, which is a heck of a lot considering business being down.
Yeah, and you look at the Mania before, and its buy rates and ticket sales, like attendance, sheer numbers, are both down.
Right. Yeah, for sure. There was also a 3-day fan fest held at the Civic Center, which is where it hails from, but it wasn't a big moneymaker yet. It was also known as the quietest WrestleMania ever.
Really?
A lot of people sitting on hands. So.
Yeah, it's crazy to see what it's turned into now. Like, you look, a 3-day fan festival. That's great. Now you have Access, the Hall of Fame. You have the Raw after, typically SmackDown too. NXT runs a takeover. Did I say the Hall of Fame? There's so much going on that goes into a whole week of festivities now. And it's WrestleMania 11. They're doing a 3-day fan festival, which, it's a precursor of things to come.
Right, and that's one of the things that I really appreciate about WWE/F is you get to see that growth over time. I mean, there's no pulling the curtains back and hiding these things. Like, we get to witness it and experience it as they grow. So, which only hooked me even more. So, let's see here. I think from there we go right to the top of the show. So we get a package for the Special Olympics, and there is a special Olympian that sings America the Beautiful. But before she's announced, it's just awkward crowd shots and silence. And then finally, right before she starts to sing, Vince finally gets a microphone that works and introduces her before she sings. So we're starting the show out with technical difficulties all over the place. And it's going to be a thing for the next, probably the first hour of the show, at least, I should say. So once she sings America the Beautiful, which was an interesting rendition, by the way, very operatic, not necessarily anything catered to a wrestling crowd, but nonetheless, it was a cool thing. We go down to ringside and we get Jerry Lawler and Vince McMahon, who's on commentary tonight, which is really another thing, a stopping point for me. Like, where is Jim Ross? They've just signed Jim Ross 2 years ago. Why is he not in commentary? It blows my mind.
No idea.
And I found nothing online about why, other than like we were talking about with the Fan Fest and stuff. This is just them trying new things and seeing what sticks and what works. So is what it is. So we start our first match. We get the Allied Powers, Lex Luger and the British Bulldog making their way to the ring. And what an entrance. Gee, I wonder who's going over on this one.
Yeah.
It blows my mind sometimes. But anyway, so they go against Jacob and Eli Blue with Uncle Zebediah. And I was this week years old when I found out who Jacob and Eli Blue were. John, do you happen to know who the Blue brothers were?
The Harris brothers.
The Harris brothers. I had no idea, and I was like, what?
How many giant twin tag teams are there?
Well, I don't know, but these guys had hair, and the Harris brothers had no hair.
Yeah.
So it just blew my mind that the Harris brothers had hair.
Did you catch Uncle Zeb at least?
Oh, yeah. No,
yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. Good old Dutch.
That jig is up.
Yeah.
So we go ahead and start the match. John, anything stick out to you in the match?
Oh, I had low expectations for this one.
So, well, I get that, but at the same time, again, and I didn't know that the Blue Brothers were the Harris brothers, but whenever the Blue Brothers made their entrance, I'm like, oh, I remember these guys. I think I kind of liked them. I really
they
didn't have
weren't
much
the
of an
worst
issue with
part
them.
in the match.
No, exactly.
The opening sequence, they start out hot, like clearly a planned hot spot at the beginning.
Yes.
And it felt awkward the way the Blue Brothers rushed in, and then they go to the Irish Whip, and it's clunky. Luger and Bulldog both hit hip tosses, and Luger almost drops one of them.
Right on top of him.
Yeah. And that's a continuing thing with Luger in this match is, man, it's a
Lock
child.
City, brother.
As a child, I loved Lex Luger. As an adult, oh, that was rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wasn't into it. The match, the Blue, they looked better than I expected. When it finally came to the end, I actually had to rewind the ending because I'm like, is Bulldog even legal? But Bulldog really smoothly makes that tag and then comes over the top with that sunset flip to finish it up.
Yeah.
That was the best part. But Bulldog was in there quite a bit. They tried to hide Luger as much as they could. As far as the Allied Powers go, I'm like, oh, this could be a really cool team. And like the tag match later on in the show, I'll come back to it. But I'm like, oh, you're going to have a main event feud like with this tag team division coming up soon.
Right.
But it made me think Luger was checked out or he just wasn't into it.
Something was up. Yeah.
Yeah. But he did not look good. And his repetition of doing the same moves over and over really stood out to me as like, all right, we get it. You can throw a punch. You can throw a clothesline.
You can do a power slam-ish.
A sloppy one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Luger did not look good. This was not his best effort, in my opinion. Blue Brothers were fine. Davey was, he was the highlight of the match for me with that finish. I thought was great.
Yeah.
I wish commentary would have made more, oh, look at that great tag by Bulldog, great ring awareness. They could have said something like that to really put him over. But I think
they might have been hesitant to put him over, and in turn, with not saying anything about Luger, burying Luger. So it's better to just not say anything and lay out. But
it was the end of the match, ended on a high note,
Right. Yeah.
Was this. Oh, this isn't the one with the wonky pyro. We'll get to that later. But
oh yeah, we'll get to that. Glad you noticed that too, by the way. Yeah. So speaking of noticing, so you mentioned that about about Luger, and so to kind of elaborate on that. So everybody always talks about Ultimate Warrior being like, oh, when I was a kid, I loved him, and then as an adult, I'm like, oh God, I realized what everybody's saying. I to a certain extent, I see that, but for me, two people in this pay-per-view stood out as that for me, and Lex Luger was one. And we'll talk about the other one. We'll talk about the other one later, but the other one was Psycho Sid. I was a big fan of Psycho Sid when I was a kid. As an adult, I'm like, he's got one gear.
I wanted more Sid on this pay-per-view.
Oh, God. Of course you did. But you must enjoy train wrecks.
Well, can't look away sometimes. But yeah, overall, I could have skipped this one. The finish was fun. It was nice to see those two together because they look like $1 million.
They really do. It was a great package, no pun intended. But yeah. So Bulldog, of course, is going to hit his standing vertical suplex. We get a good double axe kick from the Blue Brothers, and a couple times we get some twin magic, if you will.
I did like that. Yeah,
I did too. I liked how they kind of worked into their gimmick. The fact that they are identical twins. We get a really cool
commentator. The commentators and the referee can't tell them apart.
Right. One of them being Vince, the boss. So one of the Blue Brothers drops an elbow from the top or second rope. I can't remember. Bulldog moves out of the way. It looked like a really good bump. It was solid. We get Luger with yet another power slam. Another set of twin magic, if you will. It seems like a weird thing to call it. But yes, then we get our sunset flip off the top, and your 1, 2, 3, Lex and Bulldog win the match. The Allied Powers must pose at the end of the match with all the pyro, and not just a little pyro either. We've got pyro from the top of the ring. We've got pyro coming from the Titantron to the ring on a cable. Just all kinds of stuff. We get a full lighting treatment and a pose off as if this is a bodybuilding competition. Can we talk about how Bulldog looking like $1 million right there? Holy smokes. Yeah, just, I mean, it's a good package, but it went nowhere. Thanks, Lex. So post-match,
interview in the aisleway with Uncle Zebekiah, Uncle
Zebediah.
Dutch Mantel.
Yeah, thank you.
Whatever.
If you can't see, and neither can we.
Yeah. And I didn't understand this at all, because why interview him in a dark entranceway? That seems dumb to me.
Well, because it's not supposed to be dark.
I guess.
There's supposed to be a spotlight on him, and whoever's running spotlight is asleep at the wheel.
I'd say just wait for them to get to the back.
Oh, I would agree for sure. But the other thing which kind of blew my mind is Dutch Mantel at this point is no spring chicken. He's known his way around the business for a while, but yet he's cutting a promo with Jim trying to hold a mic in front of his face, and Dutch Mantel is over here, and he's talking like this, and he's all over the place, and I'm like, can you not talk into the microphone, please? Dear God, this is the biggest pay-per-view of the year. Well, speaking of microphone issues, then Vince throws backstage to NYPD Blues Nick Turturro, who is supposed to be with Pam Anderson. He starts talking, he can't hear a word, and then all of a sudden Jenny McCarthy comes into the picture, and Vince, I guess, just decides to cut it, whoever decides to cut it, and we just go to crowd shots for an awkwardly long amount of time. Bruce or Vince, one of the two, by the way, if you're listening really close, can be heard saying, I can't hear him. And so that's when they back to the panned out crowd shots while Vince buys time.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I like the little details like that. I can't hear him. Which, and I might as well go ahead and talk about this now. It's one of those things that cracks me up throughout the show. You could tell Vince on commentary is very frustrated not to be able to be producing backstage because you get a lot of this. And that's in real life is what that translates to.
Way to go, pal.
It's so good. Vince as a person is just, my gosh, gold. So we then go to our second match with Jeff Jarrett and the Roadie versus Razor Ramon with the 1-2-3 Kid. I miss seeing the Road Dogg as the lackey to Jeff Jarrett. It just blows my mind every time. We get a throwback to what happened recently at the last pay-per-view at the Royal Rumble. That's right, 4 months ago. Back when there was only 4 or so, not counting the in-your houses, of course. But so the Roadie takes out Razor's knee at Royal Rumble, which is going to play into the events of tonight at WrestleMania. We're going to go backstage with Razor Ramon and the 1-2-3 Kid. And yet more mic issues. We still can't hear the what they're saying in the mic. We can hear kind of what they're saying through the camera that's picking it up, but still not great. And then we get the entrance for Razor Ramon again with 1-2-3 Kid. And I've got to stop right here and say, my God, was he cool? Over like
Razor.
That, I mean, what exactly? But just the two of them, I mean, we're talking about how good of a package Lex and Bulldog looked like. Like, these guys were legit. Like, I remember hearing that music just even in rewatch this week and getting goosebumps. Like, God, I forgot how cool he was and how much I loved him as a kid. But really good stuff. So we get the classic Razor entrance with the pyro, the whole 9 yards. Good stuff. Look like $1 million. I've got to say, as far as presentation so far, minus the microphone issues and the lighting and stuff, everything's on full cylinder as far as where they're at in production with characters and wrestlers.
You skip something. Razor runs in and they start throwing punches. So it definitely happened.
It happens. It does.
Razor, on his way to the entrance, takes off his vest. There's a ton of camera crew, like photographers, ringside. He pushes his way through them, gets in the ring. Jarrett throws a punch. Razor hits 3 punches, and Jarrett rolls out. Then Razor does his Chico pose. There it is. No pyro. And then the pyro goes, and he just kind of stands there awkwardly with his arms spread out.
Well, I mean, you say it's awkward. I don't think it's quite so awkward. Yes, they missed the cue, but at least he's still doing the pose that he hits before he hits his finisher. So it's not like he's just like standing here, waiting around kind of thing. Like, but I get you. It is a weird, shifty pyro, if you will.
Oh, you missed the cue.
How you gonna miss the cue, brother?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right.
And that will not be the only disappointment in this match.
We start the match, and I don't even know where to go with this, John. This is what a match.
It should have stolen the show.
It really should have. Honestly, it really, really should have.
And Jarrett, he's seasoned at this point. Razor knows what to do. This should have stolen the show, and it does not deliver.
Yeah, they do some interesting. They make some interesting choices that keep kind of notching down the quality of the match, in my opinion, with some of the things that they're doing. So I'll just read through my notes here real quick and get a head start on this. So in my notes, it says hot start, Jarrett powders, Razor gets pyro and lights. So I had it in my notes. I just didn't have it in the pictures. I just looked down and saw that. So Razor hits a side suplex. We get a double down, number 1. We get they both hit the ropes and drop an elbow. Second double down. Hit the ropes and a double punch. Third double down. What are we doing here with all these double downs? I just don't understand.
It never got going.
Yeah. Somewhere I've got pictures for those. Oh, so there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3.
Yeah, and Razor on that third one, he was running 1,000 miles an hour off those ropes, and boom, ran into Jarrett and just clunk head to head. It looked like.
I think just in general, their chemistry just didn't work. These are 2 guys that can work circles around half the roster. Like him or love him, Jeff Jarrett is a phenomenal worker, and in my opinion, just not a good politician, and so that's kind of kept him down, I'll say, in his career. But the dude can work. There was another weird spot that stood out to me where Jarrett's on the second turnbuckle and he turns around and to go hit a move, but we get Razor. Notice Razor's up and then he's down and he's back up and bent over. All this for some move, for a sunset flip or something like that. I think, it was a sunset flip from Jarrett. I just don't understand if it was miscommunication or a timing issue or what, but it's just really weird.
And then Kid and Rhodey, they're doing their shenanigans throughout the match as well.
Right. Yep. I did want to point out, too, one of my favorite spots of the match, though, was when Razor goes to hit the Razor's Edge, and he props Jeff Jarrett up on his shoulders. Rhodey grabs his ankles through the ropes and pulls him out.
Yeah. Kind of guy.
Yeah, I dug it. That was a good spot for him. And then Jeff, being the heel that he is, tries to take off at one point during the match. 1, 2, 3 Kid cuts him off. And boy, what a pop does 1, 2, 3 Kid get for this. Then we probably one of my favorite bumps of the whole match, honestly, was whenever the Rhodey is getting involved and Razor Ramon just nails his face in the turnbuckle, and he takes one heck of a face bump on the outside. Hat flies off, the whole 9 yards. Good stuff.
The sound was there too.
Yeah, it really was.
A gross sound. It was awesome.
Yeah. Yep. We go back into the ring. Those are your double downs. I've already got those. There was a time where Jeff Jarrett was in a compromising position around the ring post, if you will. Looks like 1, 2, 3 Kid is going to give him a crotch shot, and Jeff pushes him away into the barricade. And good stuff. Not great stuff. Let's see here.
Time for the finish.
Yeah.
WrestleMania. How do you finish a match? Not
I don't know.
double DQ.
No, exactly. Jared gets up, Rhodey interferes, chop block to Razor, and we get a DQ finish. Yeah, just
what was it? Did Razor get the win, or was it a double?
It was. Let me go to my first page of notes. It was Razor Ramon.
Okay.
Because he got chop blocked. So yeah. Yep.
Not for me.
Yeah. So there's your finishing sequence.
Yeah.
I will say I loved the post match shenanigans. As much as I didn't like having a DQ finish, 1, 2, 3 Kid. My God, did he look like $1 million with these kicks? Every single kick looked like a 10 out of 10. The first one he hits against the Rhodey is just insane. The second one that he hits is on Jarrett, and it busts his mouth or his nose open, and he's bleeding from the lip basically. Which no big deal. You're at Mania, so lay your stuff in, kid. Just a series of kicks to Rhodey in the corner. Just really, really good stuff. And then we get just more shenanigans and a referee pile in to try and separate the madness. I don't know that the match needed all the shenanigans that it had, but on paper, it shouldn't have needed that. In reality, it probably helped.
Jumping ahead, what would you have changed? Like, I know we'll rebook later, but what would you have done different in this match? Because this one needed something.
I would have probably made it a tag match, if I'm being honest, and I probably wouldn't have had the previous tag match on the card at all.
Yeah.
Kid was over enough that he could have carried a tag team. Rhodey, probably not as much. He was getting heat, but he was just not as equally over as the Kid was, and that's not a babyface heel thing. That's a character development kind of thing, I think.
Would you put a stip on it or no?
I don't think so. I don't think it needs it. Okay. Again, these were two people that are, well, I say two. Honestly, these are 4 people that are phenomenal workers. So I don't think they need a stip. Why? What would you? And if so, what stipulation would you put on it?
Anything goes, falls count anywhere. Let them brawl throughout the arena, get out of the ring, go through the crowd, get the crowd up off their feet, have them go nuts in a tag match. I think that's what I would have done. Or Razor.
Do you think that would have made the card overall too gimmicky, with the main event being a football player match, if you will? Not that that's necessarily a gimmick. We've got a submission match.
They stayed in the ring. Submission match was in the ring. Get them outside, have a brawl.
Gotcha.
That's how I would have done it. I would have thought of something like Crush Macho Man, where they're in the back room. Like, I guess that was Last Man Standing, I think. But I would have had something, crazy, get the crowd up and moving. And maybe that's a little too ahead of the time for 95, but I think they needed something else, something to mix it up on this show.
I think they could have benefited just from better psychology. Why are you doing 3 double downs? Why are you? There's just so much that didn't need to happen that did.
And the other thing I would have done, if not for a tag match, what did Razor do the year before?
Was that the ladder match?
Yeah.
The Shawn.
I would have said, let's put something on a pole or something hanging up, get the ladder.
God.
Yeah, I'm going full gimmick here. I would have had a ladder match. Then I would have had
on a pole.
why not? Was this for the Intercon?
No.
No.
Yes, it was.
Put the Intercon up there. Let's go.
Yep, it was.
That would have been a thing, and don't do it 2 years in a row. Well, WWE has done a lot of things many years in a row later on, but I think that would have been a cool thing to do. Give the match a little more buzz, get more hype for it, and then you have Road Dogg and Kid both do run-ins to do falsies with the ladder, and then either have them kill each other in a crazy spot or have them both brawl to the back and you get rid of them that way. And I think that would have given myself more enjoyment out of this match. So either give it a tag match and let them all just go nuts and brawl everywhere, or make it a ladder match. But this was a slow show, and I think it needed a little shot of life.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't do enough research to know what they did previous weeks on Raw, but something, as you're saying all that out loud, that I'm thinking is it would have been cool if, and probably not at Mania because you want the big payoff at Mania, but if there was, and again, this is before there's monthly pay-per-views, so let's say that there was a monthly pay-per-view. The previous pay-per-view, what I would have done is put, I almost said X-Pac, the 1, 2, 3 Kid versus the Roadie, and have the main guys outside as managers cheering on the young boys, if you will, to represent the team. And then at Mania you have your blow off with Razor and Jarrett, and then it kind of means more. People are more invested in it. And maybe that's a way to kind of circumnavigate having too much of a gimmick. Not that I dislike what you're throwing out there, but just another alternative.
But yeah, and I think if you would have done a ladder match, I don't know. I think it needed something else. But when you look at this show as a whole, it's lacking.
Yeah. Lacking in star power, lacking in pushing of their own people that they do have. It's weird. And yet I signed on full time. I was like, I love this. I'm in.
And for me, if you're new to it, cool. For me, 93, 94, I was watching pretty heavy. There's not really any new stars here. Diesel's in the main event. He's still pretty new. But looking at it, you don't have a whole lot of new star power going on.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that hurt this show.
I think another thing that hurt this match, so I didn't mention, but on the first match with the Allied Powers versus the Blue Brothers, that match went 6 minutes and 34 seconds. This match goes 13 minutes and 32 seconds. I think that's twice as long as it should have been. At some point, if somebody is seeing the chemistry is off, they should call an audible, whether it's the guys in the ring themselves or a producer or an agent or Vince. Somebody should probably cut this down and give him time elsewhere in the card. So then we finally go.
I'm gonna argue no when you see the rest of the card.
Well, you got me there.
I would have rather the psychology been on point in a straight singles match and have them go 20 minutes and let it steal the show.
Yeah,
I mean, it didn't work for me. It was a thumbs down.
We go after the match. And finally, we can see Jim Ross in the entranceway, and he's getting a promo or an interview from Jeff Jarrett as he leaves with his Intercontinental title that he still has because he got disqualified, so therefore title doesn't change hands. Nothing memorable to me. We then go back to I'm never going to remember his name, Nick Totoro.
NYPD Blue.
Yeah. Again, we're just reaching for celebrities that, again, have nothing to do with wrestling. I get that NYPD Blue, I think, was on USA, perhaps, I'm assuming. So that's the crossover reason. I don't know. Or was it on NBC?
I thought it was NBC.
Okay, which still would make sense because of
All in the Family.
Yeah, so I get that. But again, if you were just a loyalist to the wrestling product and not to the channel, Nick Totoro doesn't mean much to you. So we do go back to Nick, and it's the same kind of setting. It's like deja vu all over, the exact same setup and scenario where Jenna McCarthy brings her hand around him, and he's supposed to be interviewing Pam Anderson, but she's nowhere to be found. Instead, we get Jenny McCarthy. Enter Shawn Michaels, who talks about something.
The story is Pam Anderson and Shawn Michaels had a fight sometime that
correct day. Yeah. And we'll get on with more of that, but so and then Sid comes in, and what's funny about this to me is Shawn comes in and he's like, yeah, there was some kind of issue, I don't know where she's at, all this kind of stuff, and then we get Sid and he's gonna be one note, and he's just gonna scream and yell. And it's so funny because it's so jarring that even Jenny McCarthy has got her fingers in her ears. He's just like going ballistic. And the best part of the whole thing is if you look really close, you can see IRS just busting up before he drinks his coffee to try and cover it up, but he's just dying because it's like, dude, calm down.
And again, I'm gonna say this: we need more Sid.
Again,
IRS liked it.
It's so funny because as a kid, I loved the fact that he was all crazy, and then he'd go to the ruler of the world, and like he had these, peaks and valleys, and it seemed like for WrestleMania he was just all right here the whole time, nothing changed, and I was like, dude. So, from there, we go to our next match. We've got King Kong Bundy making his way to the ring. Really cool, by the way, on the entrance to have the sliding glass door with a projection on it. So for Money Inc., of course, we're getting a $100 bill with Ted DiBiase's face right in the center. Cool entrance, I guess. The story that we're telling is that previously on the prior pay-per-view, the Royal Rumble, IRS and Money Inc. end up taking the urn from Paul Bearer and The Undertaker, and so therefore Undertaker is weakened because he's got no power of the urn.
Yeah, it was repossessed because he didn't pay his taxes.
Well, okay, but I'm like, Repo Man's not here because you're right, and they even said the word repossessed, but actually an IRS would foreclose, not repossess. But we're wrestling fans; we're not supposed to know all the details.
It worked.
Yes, don't try to make sense of a illogical situation, Jared. I get it. So while we're waiting on this slow Money Inc. entrance, we get Neil Anderson, who is a former Chicago Bear, with Todd
Pettingale.
Todd Pettingale. Thank you. Good Lord, names. With Todd Pettingale, and honestly, for a celebrity promo in the crowd, because immediately I go, for some reason, even though she's not necessarily a celebrity, I go back to when they interviewed Diana at Wembley Stadium, and I was like, this is awful. Neil Anderson actually did a great job. He did exactly what he's supposed to do, delivered it well, and it was believable. So props to Neil Anderson for that. Again, I have no idea who Neil Anderson is. He meant nothing to me, but it was cool to see just somebody that other people obviously knew. And then, oh, yes, we get the Undertaker's entrance. And I just can't help myself when it comes to Paul Bearer. Good Lord, I love that guy. Really cool entrance from Taker with the typical old school slow raising of the hands and the lights. We get some great visuals between Paul Bearer and King Kong Bundy, who seems all he could do is chew on his bottom lip the whole time while he's waiting for him to make their entrance. Good stuff. We get, by the way, the MLB is on strike during this time, and so we get the American League umpire Larry Young as our guest referee, who looked ungodly familiar to me, even though I also didn't watch baseball at the time. So, I don't know. Don't know anything about Mr. Young, but he was there.
Yeah, Vince is grasping at straws, like you said earlier. Anything going on in the world, like, yeah, bring it in. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Which I think, and again, he's always, and it's a smart move, to be honest, but he's always done that. But this year, in 95, it seems like he is. So I guess the best way to explain this, like in WrestleMania 1, for example, he was going MTV. For WrestleMania 13, he was going boxing, where it's one direction hardcore. And this one, it's like, let's throw everything against the wall and hope something sticks. And it kind of didn't work because of that, in my opinion. We're going football, we're going television, we're going baseball, all these different directions, models. It just kind of didn't make sense.
And I feel like Vince was all about Pam Anderson. Like, the football thing, but
Vince is not alone.
Yeah. But I feel like Vince was steering hard into Pam Anderson at the time.
True, but also weird that you don't show her until the very end of the show. If you're going that hard up.
Yeah, but yeah.
So, anyway.
Taker and Bundy.
Taker and Bundy. We get a old school, a current school from Undertaker to Bundy.
Just walking
We
the
get
top rope. No big deal.
yeah, we get several clotheslines from Taker to Bundy before he goes down. Finally, Taker is able to get out of the ring and just snatches the urn back from Ted DiBiase. You've never seen Paul Bearer happier in his whole life. Good stuff. My God, I loved it so much. It reminds me that somewhere they do this gimmick again or something similar to it, because I remember there was a time where they had the big urn and Paul's got it by his face, but the camera shoots into the urn to see the reflection of Paul Bearer's face. I'm like, God, that was so cool. And I was thinking it was this pay-per-view, and it was not.
I think it's 13.
It might be.
Could be wrong.
So then once the urn is back under the possession of Paul Bearer and the Undertaker, Ted DiBiase, of course, calls for backup. We get Kama, the mixed martial artist fighting machine, whatever you want to call it.
The ultimate fighting machine? Come on.
Yeah.
You know it.
So he comes down and gives Paul Bearer the funniest kick to the gut. Paul sells it great, flips the urn up into the air. Kama catches it.
It was a great catch, by the way.
It really was.
It was looking smooth, like, whoop, give me that.
He looked totally. He could have been one of the football players that that were there at WrestleMania. Just really good stuff. So Taker does try to get it back. He pulls Kama seemingly by his eyebrows to try and get it back, but to no avail. Kama ends up keeping it, and in the middle of the match, and this is kind of interesting to me. I don't know if I like this or hate this. But cuts a promo in the middle of the match with JR in the entranceway and says that he's going to melt down the urn and make chains from it. Well, later on we find out that he did.
Oh, it's so awesome. I love this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done a promo, but I would have had him grab the camera, get in its face, and say, I'm going to go home and make some chains.
Something less formal. Yeah.
More impactful than like JR sticking a microphone in his face like middle of the match. But
right. Yeah. At least they did picture in picture of sorts and not like just a total cutaway. So you still have the option. We go back to the in-ring action. We get Bundy throwing Taker into the corner, follows him up with a splash, and Taker no-sells this and follows up with a scoop slam, a boot to the face, followed by a scoop slam, and then the big jumping lariat, followed by the 1, 2, 3. No choke slam, no tombstone, nothing. That's all we're doing, brother.
It was weird, but
it was weird. But at the same time, that might have been one of the first times that he was doing the lariat that, like, oh, this is a legit move. It's not just a spot in the match. Interesting choice.
It was fine. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it.
That's fair. So little piece of trivia for you. This is actually Bundy's last pay-per-view match before leaving the company. He did make an appearance at King of the Ring, I believe, and he was a lumberjack. But as far as in-ring competition, this was it for him. I thought Taker did a fine job of, I don't want to say carrying the match, but just making Bundy look as good as he could. I pointed this out, I think, on the Raw debut. It's a small thing, but man, it made such an impact on me. After the match, Taker tries to keep going after them, and Paul Bearer yanks his hair to try and hold him back. And I just thought that was a good touch, like, you know, the controlling of the monster kind of thing. Speaking of monster, we get to a crowd shot, and we get to see some familiar faces there with the Undertaker guy, if you will, in the crowd. Another thing to note is right at the tip of his hand, you could see somebody else holding up one of those foam urns. You know, the one that was all Paul Bearer's idea that he got nothing from. There was actually two different forms of that. There was the 3D model, like what you're seeing there, and then there was the one that was like the foam hand. Both of those, Paul Bearer, and he got no royalties. Sorry, Paul.
Wonder if Taker did.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure. So because of the loss, Ted is not happy with King Kong Bundy. And so as they're walking up the ring, we get one of the most famous and replayed Taker lighting treatments, if you will, that was replayed for many years, and I thought it was fantastic. Where it's lightning the whole time. Taker's got his eyes rolled back into his head. Just really good stuff. And that match, by the way, goes 6 minutes and 36 seconds.
Perfect.
I honestly would agree. Those are a lot of times I'm not a fan of big man versus big man. It's just too lumbering and slow for me. So Vince throws backstage with Nick Totoro in front of Pam Anderson's locker room. Nick says that there was a disagreement earlier and with HBK, and she is very upset and distressed, so she left the building. So he's unable to find Pam Anderson. However, we've got more football players.
Mongo!
Mongo McMichael.
This was a missed opportunity of Mongo versus Sid if I ever saw one.
Oh, why? Why? Why would you want that, John?
Oh, put him in an Iron Man.
Oh, stop. Stop the bleeding. Why would you want them in an Iron Man? I don't get this. You're a glutton for punishment, my friend. That's all I could say. So we get the football all-stars, if you will, all cutting promos on random WWF superstars for seemingly no reason. I didn't get that. So
I think were they mostly focused on the $1 Million Ted's group?
I can't remember.
I feel like they were talking about Volkov, Tatanka.
Okay, then yes, because I remember Tatanka being there.
It was what was Ted's group? The $1 Million Corporate? No?
Money Inc.
Money Inc. Were they going by Money Inc. at the time?
Yes.
They were cutting promos on Money Inc. essentially. Because,
gotcha. And I'd forgotten like Tatanka and them. Yeah, I'd forgotten the roster.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. That does make more sense at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Mongo McMichael and all these other football players whom I have no idea. Sorry, football fans.
Mongo and Sid have a match ever? I need to find that.
If they did, it was probably in WCW and it was probably garbage. It probably had a shenanigan. It probably had something on a pole and a DQ schmoz finish. If I had to guess.
It's gotta be comedy gold.
Bro. So Nick Totoro continues his backstage hunt for Pam Anderson, and who does he find? Well, he finds Bob Backlund playing a game of chess, of course, with Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
This is my favorite interview promo of the entire show. I loved it.
I cannot tell you how much I hate Bob Backlund.
Oh, what?
I think he's a fine wrestler. I think he's a crap persona character. Snooze fest city, man. I don't know what else to tell you. Not a fan.
He's a crazy person, but he like one of his things is to get an autograph, you have to list all the presidents.
All the presidents. I did like how he worked that into his promo.
I loved this with Jonathan Taylor Thomas. I was a Home Improvement fan.
I very much so am the same, but actually it's not. And somebody else. I think maybe I was doing research and stuff, and somebody else mentioned Home Improvement. Don't forget, this is also the same year that Lion King came out. So this is actually young Simba is the big why he's relevant to WrestleMania. But yeah, nothing against Jonathan Taylor Thomas. It's not like he's a renowned chess player, so it's just awkward. But leave it to WWF to cheese it up, I guess.
Oh, they put him over as a smart young man.
That they did. He had all the answers that Bob Backlund was asking. That's what's wrong with kids. Everybody knows everything.
I loved it. Yeah, Jonathan Taylor.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah, he beats him in chess, and then Bob Backlund starts grilling him about the presidents, the current Supreme Court justice, and Jonathan Taylor Thomas had all the answers, and that's when Backlund snaps. Is like, kids know everything today, and storms out. I loved it. It was awesome.
But see,
Jonathan Taylor Thomas is like, what?
But see, and I get that, but between his personality and his wrestling style, he just seems so outdated, and the whole "get off my lawn" attitude.
I think that's the whole idea.
Oh, but it's awful. It's well, I mean,
it's a great heel.
It worked. I guess it worked. Because I hated it. Still hate it.
And like as far as like heels go, the chicken wing is not a flashy move. So,
Right.
it's oh, the chicken wing again. I don't know. But yeah, I
You're
love the
not
promo
wrong. That's
backstage.
true heat. You're not wrong. Our next match, Owen Hart makes his way to the ring. He's going to have a mystery partner. I want to take a pause right here and give you a little bit of trivia. So, a few things. Do you know anything about who was supposed to be his mystery partner for this match?
Not a clue.
Okay, so originally it was slated to be Jim the Anvil Neidhart, but he had recently missed a lot of dates and stuff, and so prior to WrestleMania, he was let go from the company. So then there was other rumors. It's not been confirmed, let's say, but it's heavily rumored that it was supposed to be a debuting Chris Benoit as his tag team partner with like a Canadian connection, as they both trained in the dungeon, etc. Yeah, I've got another piece of trivia, but I'll save that for later in the match. So we reveal that in fact his mystery partner is Yokozuna.
Yes. Look how
Right.
happy Cornette is.
I almost let something slip. He's happier than a pig in mud. But yeah, so Yokozuna, obviously with Jim Cornette and Mr. Fuji. When you're
and again, in that picture, Cornette looks really happy also.
right, yeah. Oh, he's eating it up, man. He's loving this. Going against a very young Smoking Guns. Billy Gunn looking like $1 million, by the way. Bart Gunn looking really weird with a mustache. I mean, they both look weird with a mustache looking back, but my God, did I love the Smoking Guns back then. So in 95, I grew up on a farm, and this is like little 10-year-old cowboy Jared. Well, I guess I was 12 at this point, but still, I'm like, yeehaw, these are good stuff. And what's really funny is this is this is the beginning of my freaking love for the work rate of Billy Gunn. What is your deal?
Yeehaw! Yeehaw, Billy Gunn!
Oh my God. Seriously though, I'm gonna point some stuff out and hopefully I'll be able to show you why. Oh, you're a piece of work. Why it is that I fell in love with Billy Gunn's work in the ring, because the dude was solid in this match. So as we get back to the ring, Smoking Guns make their way to the ring. They are the reigning WWF Tag Team Champions, by the way. This is for the belts. They look like, again, a well-polished package, and I've got to say, again, props to WWF at this point for kind of finally realizing how to put a tag team or a presentation together for a talent. They get the pyro, the whole treatment, and then we kick off the match. There's some interesting things that happen here. One of which is we get Bart Gunn jumping off the top rope and using his own crotch to do damage to the arm of Owen Hart. I thought that was a weird spot. I didn't really get that. The psychology, it should hurt you more than it hurts them. Let's see here. We've got Yokozuna goes for an elbow drop, I think, and misses. Bart rolls out of the way. We get some tag team work between the Smoking Guns with a double Russian leg sweep, a double drop kick.
I'm going to put Billy over. On that Russian leg sweep, Billy hooked the leg and Bart didn't, and annoyed me during the match.
Yeah.
I was like, Billy's doing what he's supposed to. Bart, come on. Like, you're just going through the motions.
I like Bart well enough, but let's call a spade a spade. Billy can work circles around Bart all day long to this day. Drop kick, same thing. Billy looked like $1 million. We get a swinging net breaker. Again, Billy looks like $1 million. We get the precursor, I guess, kind of to the famouser. Look at how high up in the air Billy is. Like, he is literally as high as Bart Gunn's head. It is insane. The athleticism. And I know that's a JR-ism too that drives people crazy, like how much he puts over how athletic Billy Gunn is. But good Lord, he's athletic. We get a leg drop onto Bart Gunn, and good Lord, did that look awful. It looked so painful. I felt really bad for Bart. We then get Owen Hart getting involved with, I think that's Bart Gunn. Now, here's my next piece of trivia. If you notice, I don't know if you caught this, John. So we've got the WrestleMania ring skirt or ring apron only on 3 sides because they failed to order 4. They've only got 3. So on the back side of the ring, we get the Raw, the generic WWF ring skirt. Small little detail, but it just stood out and it was funny to me. So yeah, we get some more offense from Yokozuna. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. What do you think of the match here, John?
Yoko was a cool surprise. I enjoyed him, and I kept thinking, this is one of those situations where I see what's coming down the line, where you had that great team at the beginning of the show, Lex and Bulldog, and like to have them as baby faces go against Yoko and Owen, that could potentially be like a money tag team feud.
Right.
That, I mean, I saw that, but I also thought, looking at this show, could they have done something bigger with Yoko, given him a marquee match? Could Owen have had a marquee match and not been in the tag team stuff? And I also kept thinking, Yokozuna was in the main event at WrestleMania 9. What happened?
Same with Lex Luger. So Lex Luger, well, not the main event, but he was going for the WWF title. There was, there was like a early in the card kind of, can he win it? No, and then it went to the main event and Bret Hart and somebody.
Yoko. Bret and Owen were the opener on 10.
Okay.
So Bret and Owen had a match, and then Luger and Yoko had a match. So then Bret and Yoko had their second match in the main event.
Correct. Yeah. So you're right though, kind of 2 falls from graces, if you will.
And I was thinking Yoko going back 2 years prior to WrestleMania 9, and him and Bret having their main event match, and then doing the double switch with Hogan. Right. That annoyed me that they should have just put Yoko up clean at 9, and I think it would have been a bigger deal here 2 years later. But no, the match itself was fine. It was good. You got a tag title switch. I thought the surprise was good. Owen was hamming it up. I thought he was awesome, like with Yoko. Yoko looked huge, but he also was moving really well. And I thought he was. That leg drop was insane. And then he takes a tumble to the outside. I was like, okay, Yoko. I liked it.
Maybe. So
he could move for his size.
He always could move for his size. That dude, even at his heaviest, impressed the crap out of me. I was such a big Yoko fan. I really, really was. One of the things that I've always mentioned every time I talk about Yoko is his ability to sell also at that big weight and size. Like, I'll never forget that wince that, you know, and it just, like, you felt for him. Like, I've never been that big in my life, but I'm like, man, I feel his pain, you know, like how much of a burden that must be. And it you know, the cameras captured that. But so for me, so there's something that I want to hit on this match. Yoko just essentially lays on Billy. And I don't know if I've got, I don't think I have a picture of that. Yeah, there it is. So then the ref is checking his hand. There you can see he's checking his hand. And it actually drops 1, 2, and a third time. And then on the third time, it does drop all the way. And then he shortly thereafter bounces his hand back up and does the, oh, no, which if it drops 3 times, the match is supposed to be over. So even commentary says that it should be over. Then Yoko hits Billy with a belly-to-belly suplex, which looked great as always, followed by a bonsai drop. And here's where my opinion differs a little bit from yours, John. So he's literally just laid on Bart Gunn. I think it was Bart. I'm just gonna say it was Bart. He lays on him, does a belly-to-belly and a bonsai, and then he makes the tag to Owen. Owen gets the pin. And if you'll notice, Yoko's just standing there blowing up, doesn't even get out of the ring because he's going to stand there to celebrate afterwards. And as Owen is celebrating, he's doing all the jumping around because Yoko is doing nothing. He's just blown up and still leaning against the ropes. Even post-match, he's leaning against the rope so much, and he realizes this, and so he just yells in the camera, "Bonsai!"
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, so
And to me, I look at it as Owen's just hamming it up, going nuts. And I thought that was okay. That this team, like, on paper shouldn't work, but they're making it work.
I honestly did love Owen and Yoko, and I totally agree. Most of the times, I'm not a fan of put together single gimmicks with each other, which, and there's been some great exceptions, Billy and Road Dogg being one, obviously, but Yoko and Owen, honestly, too. Their chemistry is just really good.
It shouldn't work, but it really does.
Yes. Yeah. And neither man suffered from that, in my opinion. Like, yeah, it's one of those things. Sometimes when you form a tag team, somebody's got to kind of come down and match each other's level. But in this case, it didn't. So good stuff. By the way, that match goes 9 minutes and 42 seconds. Owen gets a sharpshooter tease. And that was another thing that was weird. And then he just stops and then goes for a pin and gets the 1, 2, 3. And then we've got new tag champs. So
what a heel. You guys want to see the sharpshooter? No.
That's fair. That's fair. And I didn't even read that far into it. But now that you say that, I'm like, okay, that makes more sense. But it was still kind of awkward. So
I loved it. I thought it added to it.
9 minutes.
Where Owen's like, I don't need to. He did all the work. Whoop, 1, 2, 3.
Right.
So, yeah, and I loved Owen carrying both tag titles as well. That was a great touch.
I love the ridiculous childlike jumping around. Woo! 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 It's like, what are you doing? So we next get to see the blimp circling the arena. Vince McMahon says, "What's this?" And then he answers himself and says, "It's a Stridex airship." God, I love Vince in the early 90s, man. Just so fun. I did
like the camera shot. I did like that.
Yes, I hate that we only get it once, but we did get a camera shot from the blimp. It's like, why go through the trouble of doing that if we're only going to get to see it once? But nonetheless, it was cool.
Earlier in the show, I think in the first match, you could see the blimp floating around also, like, during the entrances. Right.
So I don't know. When I was a kid, I noticed the blimp for sure because it was just huge and you notice it. But I never put much thought into the logistics of it. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I learned there's actually a guy with a controller, like, doing the whole circling around the arena and thing. I had no idea. But then again, I didn't stop to think about how it was controlled or anything like that. And I almost thought of it like as a balloon that just kind of hovered by itself.
I think we talked about this years ago. It used to, like, they drop coupons.
Yeah. Yep. And of course, honestly,
which to me it was like, oh yeah, the blimp would drop coupons, but you'd never been to a show with the blimp.
Correct.
So that, like, I don't know. Yeah, it made me laugh.
Well, and it's because it's marketing genius. First of all, it's another place to put advertisement. It's a Stridex labeled blimp. But then I'm assuming Stridex as an example to drop their coupons, like, great, good stuff, man.
Because you're in an arena, everybody's like, oh, let me get that.
Right. Anything falling from the sky, the people are going to go nuts.
Is it money? What is it? Oh, $2 right. Off. Oh.
To be fair, half the crowd needed it anyway. All right. So we then go backstage with Todd Pettengill and Bam Bam Bigelow. And they do some stuff, talk some things. It's really weird, by the way. We haven't mentioned this yet, but it is really weird to see these ginormous headphones on everybody carrying a microphone. Whether it's Jim Ross in the entranceway, Todd Pettengill backstage, or at ringside. Just interesting how technology comes and goes. Because I don't remember anything big and awkward and clunky looking like this in previous WrestleManias, which were older. So just kind of odd. We then go back to our Royal Rumble replay and learn about how we got to where we are today with Bam Bam Bigelow and LT. At Rumble, LT is in the crowd. Bigelow gives them a big shove. There's a back and forth there, and that is what causes us to come to Mania. There was also an incident at Times Square where LT supposedly attacks Bam Bam Bigelow. And that's what he's talking about in the interview with Pettengill is, well, he attacked me first and I'm just protecting myself, all this stuff. Trying to make a mountain out of a molehill, in my opinion. We then go to commentary row, and it's just interesting to see the setup back then. Obviously, we still do have a lot of commentators at Mania and stuff, but just the big clunky monitors and the folding tables, it's all just so interesting to see how we go back in time.
They look like mini refrigerators.
They really do. Yeah. We then go to Howard Finkel in the ring, who is going to introduce our next match. And we are going to have Roddy Piper is going to be our special guest referee, which, by the way, was the, let me see if I can find in my notes here, the second consecutive WrestleMania event in which Piper was a guest referee in a Bret Hart match. So, interesting little tidbit there. We then get the entrance of Bob Backlund with no music because Bob is boring and old. Then we get...
Was he? Piper? What did he do at 10?
He was the referee for something.
For Bret and Yoko?
Probably.
I don't remember him. The Owen Hart's the one I remember.
Like right. Same.
Wasn't
that the cage match?
No, that was SummerSlam.
No, SummerSlam, yeah.
Yeah. The match at 10 that opens the show, Owen wins with the victory roll.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or Bret's... I think Bret's going for a victory roll, and Owen sits down and gets the pin that way.
Gotcha.
Okay. I don't remember Piper at 10, but sure.
So we get Bret Hart's entrance, full with pyro, the whole 9 yards. I don't know why that's there yet. Let me go to my next page. Oh, pictures.
This might be one of the worst matches in Mania history.
So it is, I would agree. And so would Bret Hart. He wrote in his book that this is the worst pay-per-view match of his entire professional wrestling career.
Yeah.
It's
not
hard
good.
It's hard to argue otherwise. We get some interesting, I don't even know what to call this, but Piper in this match is ungodly annoying to me. What do you say? Like every other, like he's got him in the ropes within the first minute of the match, and he's already asked, "What do you say?"
He's trying to earn his paycheck. He's there to get the "I quit."
Oh, I guess. One of my favorites, though. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find this. I started to grab pictures each time that. I don't know why that's not changing. I try to grab pictures each time that Piper asked, "Do you quit or what do you say?" Which, by the way, yes, I counted. John, take a guess at how many times individually he asked this. So I'm not saying like, "What do you say? What do you say?" That's only one. If there's a break in the momentum, we'll say. How many times do you think he's said this in the match?
How long did the match go?
9 minutes and 34 seconds.
27 times.
29 times.
Ah, that's close.
Yeah, you were very close. My favorite one of these, though, is whenever Bret is working the leg, or the knee, rather, of Bob Backlund, Roddy Piper goes in and says, "Backlund, what do you say?" And you get a no. And then Hart, who's putting on the move, and he goes, "No." Caught me to no end. My God, that was so funny. And it was like, you know, Piper's just doing this to try and break Bret. Hart, no. Made my day. I needed to laugh in the match, by the way, because it was boring as all get out.
Yeah.
We get a spot where right into the camera, Bret Hart is sent into the turnbuckle and head first, aiming right towards the camera. Cool visual. We get a tease of the cross swing, and long story short, we get some back and forth. It's a crap match, so we're just going to wrap it up. We get to the end, and Piper says, "Backlund, what do you say?" And we get, "Backlund." And then the bell rings. There's no clear "I quit," no nothing. Just 10 pounds of awfulness. We then fast forward to Backlund walking up to the ringside where he's interviewed by Jim Ross. Crickets. He's just looking around for an extended, awkward, long amount of time. And Jim Ross is like, well, what do you have to say? What do you have to say? And he said, I saw the light. Did you see the light? I don't know. I got nothing, man. John, what you got on this?
Wasn't for me. The entire thing wasn't good.
Total crap. Yeah, on the next match.
I love Brett. I wasn't feeling it. They weren't feeling it.
Honestly, I wish I could put my finger on what it was that was off. Because, again, as much as I don't like Bob Backlund, he should have been, on paper, a better worker to go against Brett than what he was. I don't know if it was the stipulation, if it was the gimmick or what. Something suppressed this match. Not that it should have been a show stealer by any means, but it should have been better than what it was.
I would have had Brett slap the sharpshooter on, sink it in for a minute or two, and have Backlund scream, "I quit."
Yeah, I would have been all for it. We're gonna go backstage. Nick still can't find Pam Anderson and says he's made some celebrity changes because he's got the pull. Jerry Lawler says he heard HBK was going. Jerry Lawler says he heard HBK was going to make Pam get a tattoo. Vince says maybe that's why they can't find her. Yes, because Pam went to get a tattoo. Todd Pettingill is back with Diesel, and he says he's going to regain. Hold on to the belt. Yeah, promos and stuff, brother. Howard Finkel introduces the guest timekeeper, Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
There's that smart kid.
Yeah, as well as the guest ring announcer, Nicholas Saturo from NYPD Blue. We're going to get the entrance of Shawn Michaels, who was not with Pam Anderson as slated, but instead with Jenny McCarthy and Psycho Sid. And then we get the big flashy entrance from Shawn in the ring. No pyro, which was an interesting thing considering all the pyro we've had tonight. Lex Luger and British Bulldog get pyro, but Shawn doesn't. What's wrong with this picture? We get true. He's a heel. One of my favorite visuals for Diesel happens in this entrance with Diesel, with the shattering of the aforementioned glass pane in front of the entranceway. Really cool visual. Again, it will be revisited shortly in a couple of years with Stone Cold Steve Austin at Survivor Series, but really good visual, good stuff. And Diesel makes his way to the ring, and as he's doing so, wouldn't you know, there's Pam Anderson, who is going to join up with Diesel for the match. And what's really funny is even though that Diesel and Shawn are going to be pitted against each other in this match, the girls don't care. They're just going to sit right next to each other because wrestling doesn't matter to them. So we get, by the way, Shawn is still in the ring while they're doing their thing. And Diesel makes short work of him before telling Pam Anderson, hey, come back up in the ring and let's do our pyro. And John, like you pointed out earlier in tonight, so this is the second time that we've done this exact same thing. This time, though, the pyro does go on cue. So some things to note of the match. There was a back body drop early in the match from Diesel to Shawn, and good Lord, Shawn was way up in the air on that, insane. Shawn is flip-flopping and flying all over the match. Early on, he gets dumped out in the ring and lands on a cameraman, and he absolutely all-out loses his temper. So much so that of all people, even Psycho Sid has to try to calm Shawn Michaels down, which, let me tell you, that's saying something. We get a big, and here's where some of the shenanigans kind of come into play. I guess what better time than right now? So one of the things that I don't know how much behind the scenes stuff you know, John. One of the things with this match is Vince wanted, or rather he insisted, that Diesel kick out of the Sweet Chin Music, which was the first person to kick out of this, after a 1 count. because of course we've got no Hulk Hogan, no Hulkamania, so we're trying for Diesel power, and so Vince is trying to push Diesel as hard as he can. So therefore, hey, Diesel, kick out after 1. And Sean is not neither of the guys are digging on this. And later on, many years later, Vince is like, yeah, it was probably a bad call. So and we'll get into more shenanigans throughout the match. But so
Diesel at this point is still pretty green. Like, he had his run in WCW, he did the bodyguard thing with Shawn, and then he kind of just boom.
He went from like managerial kind of stuff to now you're on top of the card. You're carrying the whole program.
Yeah. So he's still pretty green, and Vince is wants him over as babyface, and I get the idea. It's fine. I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
And I'm sure Vince was going crazy, like I said earlier, for Pam Anderson. And he's like, oh, we'll put Pam and Diesel together. Like, it'll be a great way to put them over, whatever.
Right. And then Jerry Lawler steals all the thunder from that. Oh, she's waving to me. She's waving to me. Which is just great. God, I love Jerry Lawler on commentary sometimes. It's just, he's so good.
Yeah.
So there's a body press that's gonna happen from Diesel to Shawn, but something happens and Shawn awkwardly slips out of it. It doesn't look like it's supposed to be a spot like that. We get Shawn flying out of the ring in a really unique way to save himself with just the tops of his feet, or his toes rather, into the second rope, and stops himself from landing on the mat head first, which when he lets go, he does end up landing head first, but with way less impact. Then we go to the other side, and he shoots Diesel out of the ring and gets himself out of the ring as well. But then he skins the cat, comes back in. What great athleticism! And only for him to jump back out into the crazy crowd of photographers and Diesel. And those photographers end up finally playing a role in the story of the match, with Diesel trying to avoid hitting one of the photographers, and therefore is injured his ribs, which I was fine with that. But what I was not fine with is this photographer in the background acting like, oh, what a perfect opportunity for some glamour shots. And he's just like all up in the business of Diesel. It was very distracting, just awkward. We do get a bulldog from Shawn, and the reason I put that there is because also in the Jeff Jarrett and Razor Ramon match, there was this weird bulldog botch. I don't understand how he overshot it so much, or how, I don't know, something happened. It was really weird. So when I saw a bulldog from the same spot go right, I was like, oh yeah, that's what a bulldog's supposed to look like. Shawn looked like $1 million in this match to me, man. I don't know what your thoughts on the match overall were, but Shawn looked like the workhorse that he is known as being. He does an elbow drop from the top to the back of Diesel, or rather to his ribs. Looked like $1 million. Looked like it hit spot on. We get Shawn squeezing, doing a sleeper on Diesel, where he's checking for the 1, 2, 3, and he literally hulks up. Since we've got no Hulkamania, he does the Hulk spot, and like at one point is literally doing the whole shaking and pumping everybody up. Yeah. So before we get to the finish, John, so far, what are your thoughts on the match?
I liked the match till the finish. I thought the finish needed something more.
That's fair.
And the other thing I want to say, did it remind you of any Shawn matches later on in his career?
Oh, you talking Hulk?
Yeah.
Yeah. SummerSlam 03?
Yeah. It reminded me of that one quite a bit. Like, it was something like where Shawn was like, I don't know if he was like angry about losing, but it felt like this match he cared and he was trying.
He was angry about not having a protected finish. And so even though that Shawn and Kevin Diesel are best friends, this is still the land of the Sharks, and everybody's clawing their way to the top and wanting to keep their spot no matter what. And this is definitely the case with Shawn. Shawn is not wanting to let go of what he's worked so hard for, especially after last year's ladder match, and literally climbing the ladder in the company, only for Vince to be like, we need a big guy. So even though they're buddies, Sean's kind of upset about having to do the job and the kick out at 1, all this kind of stuff. So as a matter of fact, there's a lot of back and forth claims online about the fact that well, even Diesel claims that HBK botched the jackknife powerbomb on purpose. So to fast forward, we get a sweet chin music. We do get a 1, and right as the 2 count happens is whenever Diesel kicks out. So he does try to help there. We then get a some awkward ref bump that isn't even caught on camera as they're going out to the ring, and then apparently Earl Hebner goes out to the ring and somehow injures his ankle, supposedly.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's not caught on camera at all. We do get one quick camera shot of him holding his ankle as Sid awkwardly, finally decides to throw him into the ring for a very slow, the 1 and then the 2 as he kicks out after the sweet chin music. Sid then, while the ref is distracted and down, takes a knife or something and cuts away the top turnbuckle pad to expose the turnbuckle. Fast forward, we end up getting, I don't know, sidewalk slam. We get a catapult from Diesel to Sean into the corner. Sean misses the top turnbuckle because they're so far out and hits the second turnbuckle, trying to make the best out of it anyway. This is where we get the hulking up of Diesel, literally just exactly like Hulk Hogan, and big boot followed by the jackknife powerbomb. And this is where everybody says that Sean botches this on purpose. You could see he literally lands like on his feet and on his butt more than a flat back bump. And there's your 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Yeah, and at this point, Sean hasn't had a world title run. That's not going to come until next year's Mania, where the boyhood dream.
Right.
But for me, I really like the match. And like I said, the comparison to the Hogan match, with Hogan, I felt Sean was doing extra and kind of was making a parody of himself. And this match, I felt like he was really trying, like, to get his stuff in, make the match good. The finish, my issue isn't how the finish was executed. I just thought it could have been a bigger moment. I think something better could have happened there. I think it was a missed opportunity. And I don't know. I think they could have done something more. But I do like Sean immediately after the match. He gets a backstage promo talking about how Earl being hurt on the outside, but he was saying, I hit my finish, or he hit his move, whatever, the chin music, and he should have had a 1, 2, 3. He should have won. And he makes the claim that he's the uncrowned champion. And, it sets up that, hey, we need a match later on because I had that phantom finish. I didn't get the full win, though.
Right. Yep. And then, of course, after that promo, we get Sid yelling into the camera yet again, just full throttle. No dynamics with Sid at this point whatsoever. And even, by the way, Jim Ross, as they're making their way out of the ring, interviews Sid, and Sid just says, it's not over with Diesel and Sean. So, but yeah, I enjoy the fact that Sean is trying to salvage this and still make a storyline out of it. In my opinion, I thought Sean looked great in this match. I do agree that he was overselling and flip-flopping and flying too much. But at the same time, when he was hitting moves, they looked perfect. They looked snug. They looked exactly like they're supposed to. We then go back down to ringside, and we get Todd Pettingill. Nope, already done that. Vince introduces Money Inc., King Kong Bundy, Tatanka, everybody. They all make their entrance.
That's not the best picture, but Bundy looked like he was fresh, like he didn't lose to Undertaker that night. That annoyed me.
Right? Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
He should have come out with like an ice pack on his head or something.
Yeah, a neck brace or something after that flying lariat. So then we get
Tatanka, IRS, Nikita, or Nikolai, I should say. And,
yep.
Comma.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then we get
Pat Patterson, referee.
Yeah, special referee Pat Patterson. More on that in a minute. Then, because we watched it on the WWE Network, we of course know that Salt and Peppa sang Bam Bam Bigelow to. Well, actually, did they sing Bam Bam Bigelow or did they sing Money Inc. to the ring?
LT.
Oh, okay.
They would have sang the baby face. What a man, what a man to LT. Yeah.
So they were just there and dancing around, I guess, and that's whenever. And I thought this is great from Bam Bam Bigelow. He then goes over there and threatens the girls, and they're all terrified. Just good stuff. So then cue LT, and that's probably whenever Salt and Pepper was doing the What a Man.
All the football guys came out too.
Yeah. The
LT, Mongo and company.
Exactly.
Man, Mongo versus Sid. Oh, we were this close.
As if this pay-per-view needed to drag anymore. All right. So we get both teams on either side of the ring, and then on the other two sides of the ring are camera crews. So the ring is surrounded more so than even if you had a lumberjack match, which is essentially what this is. As you said, we've got special guest referee Pat Patterson, who is taking an ungodly amount of time explaining all the rules. It's like nobody's the LT or whomever isn't paying attention. It just seems to go on forever. Finally, LT hits or slaps rather Bam Bam Bigelow, and that's what kicks off the match.
Well, I enjoyed that quite a bit. I thought that was a great touch. You're complaining about it being slow, explaining the rules. I was worried LT was going to go in there and go 1,000 miles an hour, and I thought LT was very composed at the beginning, and let that crowd drink you in a little bit, get used to where you are. Bam Bam pushes him, and then he comes back, and here's some more rules, and then he hits that slap.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I mean, it's just it's a little thing, but with a celebrity, I was really scared. Like, oh, this guy's going to go 1,000 miles an hour, and it's not going to be good.
Kind of like Mr. T at WrestleMania 1.
Yeah. And LT took his time and like a pro, and I like that.
Yeah. And shout out to Bam Bam too for helping and make him look like $1 million. Speaking of $1 million, Bam Bam Bigelow, by the way, gets paid $250,000 to put over LT in this match. So there's that.
I'll put over LT right now.
250,000, brother. Exactly.
I'll put it over for half of that.
I'll put it over for 10%. Yeah, insane amount of money. But honestly, he could have just done it and done a good enough job and got the paycheck. But he really did do a really good job.
And it's a main event of WrestleMania, and that's not everybody gets that.
Yeah.
So Bam Bam got that on his resume, so that's really cool.
Yep, absolutely. So we get a running bulldog from LT to Bam Bam. Just gonna go over some of these highlights here. Some super stiff shots from LT to Bam Bam throughout the match. Bam Bam again just takes it, and for $250,000, why wouldn't you?
LT was a big dude.
Yeah, he was. He really was. And he looked to be in shape too, especially as compared to Bam Bam Bigelow. But more on that in a minute. So we get a scoop slam from Bam Bam and a falling timber kind of splash that is missed. LT hits a shoulder tackle to Bam Bam. We then get a submission move, kind of a Boston Crab into a single leg Boston Crab. And again, this is more pacing of the match. Bam Bam doing a good job of kind of reading the stamina level, if you will, of LT, trying to help him out. He finally gets to the rope and breaks it. Yet more just insanely stiff shots, man, to the face of Bam Bam from LT. We get a really kind of pretty impressive back suplex from LT to Bam. We get our moonsault from Bam Bam because that's what everybody wants to see when we see a Bam Bam match. We also get to see a cartwheel kick later on. There is a very scary. The only move that he pulled off that I was like, man, I kind of wish he wouldn't have tried this, because it just didn't look as good. But again, that's I think because of stamina, not because of his inability. Was a power bomb from LT to Bam Bam Bigelow, but it looked kind of weird. It looked like it's supposed to be a pile driver, and they just kind of fell out of it, and then commentary covered it up and called it a power bomb. Actually, they called it a jackknife is what they actually called it. It's like, oh, that's don't do that. There's your cartwheel kick. We get Bam Bam with a splash from the top rope, and there's your pin attempt. Doesn't happen. LT fires off with some more stiff shots. Another shoulder tackle, and then we get two flying elbows at the second rope for the 1, 2, 3. So, post-match celebration. The football players hoist up LT on their shoulders. As we get ready to go off the air, JR interviews Ted DiBiase, and he talks about how he's disappointed in Bam Bam, and who ends up later firing Bam Bam from Money Inc. because of this loss. And LT there with his kid at the end as our last shot of the pay-per-view. LT is so blown up, he can't even breathe. He's literally having trouble standing. People are propping him up. But props to LT for pulling off the match and doing a good job.
Is it out there how much he made off of this?
That I'm not sure, but I'm sure it would be equal to or probably more than what Bigelow made.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That match, by the way, goes 11 minutes and 42 seconds.
All right. How would you rebook it? The whole show?
Well, so
it's tough.
There's a lot of options. The last little trivia or the tidbit that I'd like to touch on is this is actually the beginning, officially, of the full-fledged Click. Backstage is a young man named Paul Levesque, who would come on to be Hunter Hearst Helmsley. He actually just finished up with WCW. He has got a 90-day no-compete clause, but he is backstage at this pay-per-view, and it's let's see here, who is it? Terry Taylor, the Red Rooster, is backstage with Hunter and says, "Hey, you know who you need to hook up with and hang out with is HBK," and so hence, obviously they were all party animals and stuff. Hunter is sober and perfect driver, and there starts the Click. So just a neat little tidbit that I didn't even know until I did research for the show. So yeah, John asked the $1 million question here with how would we rebook it? Well,
I don't know where to start.
and that's exactly it, right? Like, where do you start? So let me grab the top sheet of my notes here so I can see the whole card. Like I said, Allied Powers, Bulldog, and the Blue Brothers, I probably wouldn't have even had on the show. I would have replaced that with a tag match between Razor and the 1, 2, 3 Kid versus Jarrett and the Roadie. That would have cleaned that match up a little bit as well. Taker and Bundy, I thought it was fine for what it was, if I'm being honest, especially with all the gaga around it, surrounding the urn and that kind of thing. I thought it was pretty protected. Owen Hart with Yoko versus the Smoking Guns. I'm having a hard time thinking of anything that I'd want to do different there, if I'm being honest. I thought it was a good match. I thought everybody looked good, minus the fact that Yoko was kind of blown up. Brett and Bob Backlund, just atrocious. It shouldn't have ever happened at all. I would put Brett with somebody else to put in a submission match. I don't think Bob needed to even be involved. Diesel and Shawn, I thought was fine. Yes, I would agree that Diesel was green and that Shawn was kind of overselling to a certain extent. But again, I was a huge Shawn Michaels fan at this point, so I thought it was totally fine. I didn't care much for the extra drama, if you will, between Jenny McCarthy and Pam Anderson and all the other Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Nick Turturro. None of that, in my opinion, was needed. I wish that Vince would have invested in his own people and tried to push them as celebrities versus stuffing a celebrity in like essentially every corner of the pay-per-view. Lawrence Taylor and Bam Bam Bigelow, I'll tell you what I would have done different there. That would have been the 6th match, not the 7th match. That would not have finished the show. I think Diesel and Sean should have finished the show.
Okay.
How about you? What would you do different? I feel like you're going to have way more creative answers than I did.
I don't think I do. I don't think there's a lot of good answers for this.
Yeah. I mean, they were starved for star power, if we're being honest.
Well,
Hogan has gone over a year ago to WCW. We're on the heels of the Outsiders making their way over.
I'm looking at it as I want to cut the Brett Bob match, but then what do you do with Brett? Because he's wrestled everybody already. He doesn't have any fresh matchups. And do I want Brett versus Sid? Not really.
Right.
The one thing on the main event I would have done to improve that.
You know what I would have done? Sorry to interrupt you. I would have probably rather seen a submission match between Bret Hart and Kama, who's supposed to be the Ultimate Fighting Machine, and tell that story. You're a striker, you're a fighter, but how can you do in a submission match versus two people who are kind of known for submissions? Like, that's on paper even a snooze fest.
Who would you have go up?
Oh, definitely Brett.
But then you got Kama losing a match going into a feud with Taker. If you're doing Kama Taker next.
So do you think that you have to go over in order to go on to another?
If you're going to a feud with Taker, you should be going over.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. You're not wrong.
I mean, for me, there's a lot of options, but not a lot of good options because a lot of the stuff has already been done before. Like I said, there's not a lot of fresh faces at this current moment. Sid's there, but he's just coming back, and it's like, what do we do there? Start to finish, I would have done, I don't know.
You can even go Bulldog Brett, but we've seen that as well.
I would have kept Bulldog and Lex the same against the Blue Brothers, because if you're going to have a tag match with a heel team and you're trying to build Bulldog and Lex to that, keep that the same. I didn't love it, but keep it the same. Jeff Jarrett and Razor, I would have cut that. I would have made it Jarrett doing an open challenge for my Intercontinental title and have him run his mouth for a month before. And then he gets out there, he cuts his promo, who's going to face me for my Intercon? And I would have had Yoko come out then and Banzai drop him and take the title off Jarrett and turn Yoko face.
And then what? Free up Owen for Brett?
No. Then I would have done...
So you wouldn't have had Owen on the card?
No, I would have had Owen on the card.
Oh, okay.
I just wouldn't have Yoko be the mystery there. Okay?
Gotcha.
So follow me. So instead of Jarrett Razor, you now have Jarrett Yoko.
Yep.
Bundy and Taker, leave the same. Maybe tweak the finish. I don't know. And then the Owen mystery opponent versus the Smoking Guns, I would have put Backlund with Owen. Because if you're going to have Owen and a mystery partner take the titles off the Smoking Guns, instead of Yoko, make it Backlund and have that team, and then you have Bulldog and Lex chasing the tag champions later.
See, but you would have put Yoko and Backlund over and had them win the titles. See, I would have kept it on the Guns in that scenario and then had the Guns versus the Allied Powers.
You got two faces then, it's fine. But
I think, and especially in that era, two faces would have been more acceptable than two heel teams. Two heel teams nobody cares about. At least you have a 50-50 split with the fan base among.
In my mind, Vince is building Bulldog and Lex is a mega babyface team, and have Owen and Bob Backlund, who's like a heat magnet, who you can't stand Backlund. Have Bulldog and Lex beating Owen and Bob the next month. I think that would have done better business.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then you free up Brett and Razor to have a number one contenders match for down the line.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been. It's been done before, but it hadn't been done in a while at that point.
Right.
And then HBK Diesel, I would keep it the same, but have a special moment for Diesel there. I think it needed some special moment with Diesel, or have the girls get involved, and I don't know, something where Sid and Sean have beef afterwards to set up that feud, and Diesel's a clean babyface champion. I don't know. I maybe have Sid trying to like sacrifice the girls or something, and Sean saves the girls, but then Sid's like, "What are you doing?" Throws him in the ring, jackknife, 1, 2, 3. I don't know.
Yeah.
And
where,
then
where are you out on the kick out, by the way?
I don't care if you kick out at 2 7/8 or 1. A kick out's a kick out.
My point is, would you have had him kick out, or would you have just not let him get the sweet chin music and protected the move itself? I guess is what I'm actually asking.
I don't know. I would have had him do it early in the match and kick out. I think early says it makes it a little easier. And if you have a heel Sean kick out early, or a heel Sean hit the move early, and Diesel kicks out, and then if you're turning Sean face to go against Sid later, the kick out doesn't finish because it's the same match, I know, but it's when he was a heel, and then you start turning him face, it won't matter as much.
Or even if you planted that seed by he hits it, and then Sid somehow distracts the referee if he's talking to the girls, and that distracts him or something. If it's not a typical distraction kind of thing, which puts a little bit of heat between the two, which again builds up to their match. But maybe put some of that on Sid instead of so much on Diesel and Sean. With the
honestly, I don't think you need the kick out if you're doing sweet chin music and there's already been a ref bump and you can count to 100.
Right.
I don't think you need the kick out at 1 because you've got that phantom finish going.
Right. Yeah.
And then the thing I would change about LT and Bam Bam,
mm-hmm.
I would have had some sort of brawl between all the football players and the wrestlers.
100%.
And then clear the ring and set the stage for the finish then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you could have had Bam Bam hit. I don't know.
I find it interesting that you have the ring surrounded.
All those guys.
What's that?
You could have done something with all those guys out there. I think you could have done more.
Yep, I think it's interesting you have the ring so surrounded, more so, like I said, than and if you booked it as a lumberjack match, the ring still would not be that surrounded. But even when it is, you don't use it. You don't do anything with it. And again, it's like, well, but how are you going to train a half a team of football players to take a bump or whatever? It doesn't have to look pretty. They're football players. We know that. I agree with you on that. They should have used them some way.
And I'm turning Sean face. I'm turning Yoko face. But I think Brett and Razor, I think in that moment there, I think you could turn Brett heel as well. And then that could lead to something else later. I don't know. It's just there's... And then if you get Triple H coming in 90 days as a heel, that could work too. You could build him up.
Right.
It's tough because there's not a lot of good options here.
Yeah, and which
Jarrett's a heel, so I mean you've got Jarrett. If he drops the title to Yoko, you could have him go, talk trash and run blah 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 blah, and that could set up a feud for Diesel while you're building up somebody else. Somebody else is a heel, but even if Jarrett's coming off a loss, it's tough.
It is. It speaks to the struggles that WWF must have had in this time, and why they ended up leaning so much on celebrity, because no matter how you shuffle the deck, you're in a tight spot. You just don't have the star power. You don't have the built up characters and storylines. And
I'm looking at this card, this list. I mean, Sean's wrestled everybody on there. Brett's wrestled everybody on there before this pay-per-view.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, you don't want to repeat the matches so quick, but you kind of have to. And you've kind of given up on Lex as a main eventer, and it looks like you're giving up on Yoko as a main eventer putting them both in tag teams.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. I feel like Sid's time is coming. Yeah, Austin's going to be a breath of fresh air by the time he shows up in a couple of years.
Yeah, buddy. Even with the ringmaster gimmick.
But I mean, you need Triple H coming in as a heel. You need Austin coming in as a heel because you've got all these guys. It's like,
well, Vince is known as a babyface territory, and even though he's lost his biggest babyface, on everything underneath, that's really all he's focused on building up. And so it kind of exposes that in this, that your heels don't have all the heat that they're supposed to have in order to make it on fire storylines and that kind of thing. So,
and you've got Brett and Shawn, they're going to switch in the course of the next year.
Right. Yep.
I don't know. It's tough, but the show itself, I didn't love WrestleMania 11.
Same.
But there's things that could have been done to make it better, I think.
Yeah.
Jarrett and Razor should have stolen that show, and that bugs me.
Yep.
Either is it, and like you also had Road Dogg wasn't anything at the time, but Kid could have done something in the singles match with somebody to the, you know.
Maybe you could have done Kama and Kid.
I was thinking that just now. Yeah. That would have been something fun.
Yep.
Not fun for Kid, but
right. Yeah. So I've got to ask the age-old question: thumbs up, thumbs down, or thumbs in the middle?
I'm gonna go thumbs down.
I'm kind of leaning thumbs down myself.
HBK and Diesel was a thumbs up.
Yep.
Yeah, HBK and Diesel is the one you need to watch if you're going to pick one match off the show.
Yep, I would agree. There is some other high spots, other high points, I should say, threaded throughout the pay-per-view, but overall, it is a thumbs down.
Backlund and JTT backstage.
Oh, Lordy.
That's
the
not
athleticism of Billy Gunn.
Sure.
Right.
Owen and Yoko, that was fun to see them for the first time together.
Yeah.
But I don't need the rest of it.
That's right. That's true. All right. Well, I think that's going to kind of wrap it up for this one. We are, of course, in WrestleMania season. So for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be doing some WrestleMania themed shows as we take a look back at previous WrestleManias. Hope that you join us next week. Like I said, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell, all that good stuff. And John, thanks for being here with us today. We will see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us.